getting myself right up on out of here. I feel like a disgrace, I'm not really what I appear. I go home to my girl and I make nice seem nice. The fact that she don't know that I just put someone on. I don't like being here. I constantly live in fear. Could be gone at any time. When you live a life of crime, you have to face the music and do the time. I'm trapped again, and fate as always hasn't wrapped again. I always get caught in my life of sin, but I just keep on going back again. You know I'm lost again, when all I wanted was to find a friend, someone that I can always depend on to help me find my life again. You know I'm trapped again. Welcome, everyone, to Tracking a Mandalorian, our new series. I bet you can't guess what show it follows. The Mandalorian on Disney. And I am joined by my senior Star Wars correspondent and our new graphic artist. He's officially become part of the staff with Mayhem Media and the Boiling Point podcast, Robby H. Robby, it's good to see you again. It's great to have you back.
What's going on?
This was actually his idea to start this series, which is why we didn't get started right at the beginning of the season. We came up with it. We came up with the idea just as the season was starting, and it took us a couple weeks just to get things ready for it as we are moving to more live shows, and we've adjusted some of the software we use, which makes production a little different, which is why some of our episodes have been a little bit slower yet this year. But we'll be back to regular episodes pretty soon. Marcus Frederiksen plays us in and out of every episode. Make sure you go check him out, reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. And visit our new storefront. You can find Mayhem Media apparel on our storefront, bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z at the end of it. And pick yourself up some apparel. And, of course, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Just search Mayhem Media. Robby, we're... The Mandalorian, I think, is a really great show.
I think it's amazing. I believe that if they continue going this route with The Mandalorian, it could bring Star Wars back.
Yeah. Let's talk about just the Star Wars universe for a second, since Disney's taken over. I personally think that the independent movies, the individual movies like Rogue One, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one.
Solo.
Oh, yeah. And then with Tracking the Mandalorian, I think their independent projects are a better quality and better storytelling than the episodes have been.
I agree.
Than episodes 7, 8, and 9, I think. So, and the Mandalorian is great storytelling. And they have a great actor to play him. I didn't write his first name down for some reason. Pascal.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal, yes, thank you. He's from Game of Thrones. He played the Sand Viper, the one who gets killed by the mountain in Game of Thrones. He was amazing in Game of Thrones, and he's great in The Mandalorian. Have you seen the new Halo series?
I've only watched like maybe 1 or 2 episodes.
That's enough, in my opinion. I don't think you need to watch any more than that.
I got the same complaint about The Mandalorian that I do with Halo.
Of course you do, because I love the series. So, of course, you're going to have something that you don't like about it, because that's why our episodes are so great together. We're always coming at it from different angles all the time, every time we've had an episode. But I want to talk about, just for a second, the difference between having a masked or helmeted lead. And that was always the problem for years. That's why we never got a Halo series, because how do you have a main character who doesn't have a face?
Well, that's my complaint.
Okay, let's get to that in a second, because I think we actually might be on the same page with this. We might be on the same page with this, actually.
For the first time.
Yeah, I think so. Now, the problem with Halo, and we're not talking too much about Halo, I'm just using it as a comparison. The problem with the Halo series is they got the wrong person to play Master Chief, and he spends way too much time with his helmet off. Way too much time. Okay. I could see, and that's where the difference is. This is where the Mandalorian is. The Mandalorian is the same way. It's a lead. He's wearing a helmet. We're not to see his face. Okay. We've only gotten to see it. Now we're a little bit behind on season 3. Next week when we do our next episode, we'll be catching up on the series. We did see it once in season 1, and we saw his face once in season 2. So I think I don't have a problem with those. That's my opinion on the Mandalorian part. I don't have a problem that we saw his face twice, because it was for very short periods of time. The way they put it into the story, I think, was completely acceptable. And I think that Pedro Pascal is doing such an amazing job as the Mandalorian. I think he deserved to have his face out there at least for a moment or two. You know what I mean, in the seasons. What are your thoughts on not just the Mandalorian and the helmet, but compared to the Halo series?
All right. All right. Just go to the Halo series.
Yeah,
Master Chief should never have taken off his helmet at all. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. All right. So for the Mandalorian, I think the only time that his helmet should have came off is like as a big reveal for a split second, maybe not even showing the whole face, maybe showing the eyes or the lower mouth, just nothing, everything at the same time. I think that mystery should be there. As the Mandalorian with the helmet on, I was amazed. He gave this aura about himself that I thought was awesome.
I had to go the first couple episodes because we don't see his face until about halfway or close to the end of season 1. And I also like how they did it. He was injured. They were in a gunfight. He got injured, and he had to do it in order to be healed. I think that's also the difference between the Halo series and the Mandalorian. They wrote the reason he takes his helmet off into the story.
Right, and I agree with that. I think that works.
And the little loophole about how no living thing can see his face. The robot is not a living thing. I thought that was a very good, that's very good storytelling, in my opinion. And that is contrary to the Halo series, who takes his helmet off whenever he feels like it.
Well, the helmet coming off for medical reasons, I can understand completely. Even in the episode where I believe they're trying to take a convoy, him and the other guy.
Bill Burr. Bill Burr. I can't remember. I didn't get a chance to put the name of the character he plays. Bill Burr is amazing in the Mandalorian series.
And he is, and I enjoyed it, and I can tell you the character in a second if it shows it to me.
Well, I can.
He plays Mayfield. But
I don't like how they did it in season 2. I don't like. I get why it happened, and I get why he did it. He's trying to save Baby Yoda, but I didn't like that he did it again. I liked the first one.
Right. See, that's the way I feel. So the way that I think it should have been done was, even though he can't wear the Mandalorian armor during this time, he was still wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
Just keep that helmet on, and it would have been perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they could have wrote it in a way where he wouldn't have had to take it off.
Now, I'm going to, unless you got another point to make.
I understand why they do it. He wants his face to be shown. They do that. The superhero movies, they do the same things. Captain America never wears his mask. The only one that's pretty much almost there is Deadpool, because he wears his mask primarily all the time. But when he doesn't, it's still the makeup and stuff. You can tell who it is, but still it's acceptable.
Yeah, because he looks like the way Deadpool does without his mask.
Right.
Yeah.
But just to show my curly locks just for the hell of it, I'm not a fan of it.
Yeah, the second time he did it, I wasn't as much of a fan of that. I think you're right. I think the first one was acceptable to me. The second one, I don't think that they should have. but to play the other side, to play the devil's advocate, as I often do in some of these episodes, he did have to then go to the waters on Mandalore and like cleanse himself. He did have to pay penance for that sin, and I thought that was okay. Like I like how
so that's what's happening in the third season right now, and I like how they're doing this because Mandalore is destroyed. So it's almost impossible for him to get to the point where he can be pretty much re-virginized. So, I mean, it was awesome the way that, I mean, you got to see Mandalore because, I mean, ever since I was little, I've always been fascinated with Boba Fett and the whole idea of the Mandalorian. I just always thought that was cool, and it was still also so much of a mystery. So I think that's one reason I really love the show because the Mandalorians are still kind of a mystery.
Yeah.
But you always wonder, what did it look like? Mandalore look like? So you're going to get to see that. It might be a destroyed version, but you're seeing it.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing what they're doing. I love the movie quality that this show puts out. It's not like you're just turning on something on TV. I remember when I was little, Mortal Kombat TV series came out, and it was basically just like Hercules and Xena and stuff. And I mean, you wouldn't have been able to tell what it was if you didn't already know.
Yeah.
So at least when you're watching The Mandalorian, you still know you're watching a Star Wars affiliated show.
Yeah, absolutely. The quality of the episodes of the whole Mandalorian series is great. Now I haven't gotten a chance to watch the Book of Boba Fett. Robby and I might do that series next after we're done doing the Mandalorian. I love how let's go back to season 1 for just a second, actually, before we get into season 3 and all that. Baby Yoda, we don't get his name until season 2, but so we're gonna call him Baby Yoda for a second. He debuts in episode 1, and the Mandalorians also spends part of season 1 putting his armor together. I don't know. Do you know the answer? You might know the answer to this. Does he have lesser armor, or is it just that he's had the armor so long that it gets damaged and that's why he needs to have it replaced, or what is it?
I believe that it's stronger metal.
Okay.
I believe it's that just better armor.
Yeah, I'm having trouble.
The way that I looked at it before was almost like scraps originally. And the better you do, the more currency you get, it goes towards your armor.
Yeah.
But I could be 100% wrong. I mean, that's just the way I think.
He seems to get every time he finds some of this steel, which I'm trying to find the name of it right now. Beskar. That's what it's called. So as he finds more Beskar, because he gets more armor. I have her name written down. What is it? The female that puts his armor together. I did have it written down. The armorer. The armorer. The armorer
is played by Emily Swallow.
Yeah, Emily Swallow. Yeah, the armorer. She's kind of, I guess, the de facto leader at the moment, or at least
that's the way I take it.
Or at least, if nothing else, they're a religious leader at the moment, because they don't really seem to have like a military leader. Because the armorer is not concerned with taking back anything or reestablishing the Mandalorians as a force. She seems to be concerned with only continuing the religion.
Right. The way that I look at them is not really religion; it's more like a tribe.
You think? Well, tribe, religion. I mean, you know.
I know what you mean, but the way that I see her as the leader, no matter what, she's you can tell she's the respected one. So I just take her as a leader.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's as much to a leader, like even if she is only more of a spiritual leader, she's the only leader they have at the moment right now.
Right. She's like the wise one.
Yeah, she does, because they don't have a military leader. They're not banded together as a force. They're all bounty hunters. They're all freelance mercenaries.
Which during that episode where they all came out to help him, flying around, having the miniguns and all that stuff, I thought was amazing. Because only one Mandalorian is supposed to be out at a time from the way they spoke.
Is there that happened in season 1? Yeah, that's when he meets other Mandalorians. They take their helmets off, and so obviously he's a little put off by that right away. That happens, but he finds out.
No, I'm talking about the one from his tribe.
The one from his tribe.
The ones from the tribe that he's with. When he was getting Grogu and they were coming out of that town, I think IG-88 or whoever it was, the robot was just destroyed. He was trying to escape, and all the Mandalorians came out and assisted.
Oh yeah, you're right. That's that's right at the beginning of episode 1. Yeah, you're right. When he gets Baby Yoda, right?
Right.
Yeah. Now I remember
what I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, you're right. That was really great. Yeah, so they do have some kind of unity, but they're not really working together as a force necessarily at this point.
No.
Something else I want to say, season 1, we get Carl Weathers and Gina Carano, who plays Cara Dune. They are both excellent in the series. I think they're both cast brilliantly, and their characters are awesome. The one thing episode 4 of season 1 is my favorite episode of the season. That's the one where they Mando and Cara Dune take down the AP Walker in that like fishing village. I think that was my favorite episode of season 1.
I agree with you. That was one of my favorites, and I liked her character. I hated that she left, but it is what it is.
You're talking about Gina Carano?
Yes.
Well, she's in season 2, so we're going to talk about her for a second. Also, Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito. He is a great antagonist through seasons 1 and 2. I love him. I hate him, but I love
to hate him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the season 1 finale has to be probably my second favorite of the season, when they go and rescue Baby Yoda after he gets taken. And then season 2, we start off season 2 with Timothy Olyphant, who is one of my favorite actors. Timothy Olyphant. I like him in just about almost anything I've seen him in, and he plays one of my favorite series, Deadwood. So I think he's amazing, Timothy Olyphant, and he's actually wearing Boba Fett's armor. And so he's not a Mandalorian. Timothy Olyphant's not a Mandalorian. So Mando makes a deal with him. Well, they're going to fight at first, but then they decide to work together in exchange for the armor. He helps them take down a giant sandworm. Definitely my favorite episode of season 2 was the season premiere when they took down the worm. I mean, that's, like you said, movie quality.
It is. And I wasn't a fan of him at first. The whole sheriff thing in space, I thought it was kind of stupid, but I grew to love it.
Yeah.
I was very excited seeing Boba Fett's armor. I knew what they were going to end up doing after seeing that.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together at the time. I just thought, oh, it's Mandalorian armor. It wasn't until later on that I was like, oh my goodness, that's Boba Fett's armor.
Right. And see, I knew right away. And from reading the books when I was younger and knowing that Boba Fett in the books escaped the Sarlacc, I was like,
see, that I never knew. I did not know that he survived that, but yeah.
And if you ever get the books, I mean, they're awesome. The degree of detail they go with him trying to dig his way out of this monster, it was amazing.
I think that they do the Boba Fett thing was a great addition to the thing. Of course, they made a spinoff, which is why we're going to probably do that series after we're done with this one. And I do know stuff about the books. I've read a couple of the books. Most of the stuff that I've read takes place after episode 6, which that's when this takes place. It actually, if I'm not mistaken, it takes place after episode 6, but before episode 7, if I'm not mistaken. Would
That's
you concur with that? Yeah.
Well, it does. Luke is still alive and young in these ones.
Yeah, we got him at the end of season 2. Let's talk about that. That's probably. Oh wait, one other thing. Katie Sackhoff is one of the ones that is one of the people that play the other Mandalorians that he meets in season 2. Katie Sackhoff is from Battlestar Galactica. She's a great actress, and she's just going to be amazing in this role.
And that was a great nod to the fans of the animated series. I've never watched the animated
No, me neither.
Star Wars like talking about.
Yeah.
But those Mandalorian characters became very popular. So when they did bring them into the Mandalorian show, I recognized them, but I didn't know anything about them. So it's cool seeing them bring the cartoon into the live action stuff.
That's something. That's something Disney is doing well with the Star Wars universe. They are intertwining everything.
They brought in Ashoka, which has the 2 swords.
Yeah.
And that was played by Rosario Dawson, I believe.
Yeah, Rosario Dawson.
And I think she did an amazing job. I was a big fan of her. They didn't do wrong in this show, except for the helmet, in my opinion.
Now, in case there's people that don't know, because there's probably some people out there that haven't seen some of the animated series or some of the other independent series, the Jedi with the 2 swords, what was her name, and could you give us any backstory on her?
Her name is Ahsoka. I have a hard time pronouncing it.
Yeah. She's from the Clone Wars series, yeah?
She was trained by Anakin. I think she was his Padawan. Yeah. I don't know a lot about it because I wasn't following the cartoon. My niece, Evie, she followed it. Big fan. She has like the phone holder of Ahsoka and everything. So when I saw her, it was more like, Evie's going to see this and she's going to love it. But the way that they brought her to life, I thought it was pretty awesome.
I don't think that I even knew that it was her until you just said that. I think I was thinking about it when I watched it. I'm like, she looks so familiar. I'm like, she's somebody, but I don't know who. And then when you just said who it was, I'm like, oh my goodness, that's who it is.
Yeah.
And they're doing such a great job intertwining the stories.
They are. And to me, they do it more smoothly than a lot of even universes. Like, you have the Marvel universe. They try to bring in this character, and this character. Sometimes it's not as smooth as what they're doing with the Mandalorian.
I'll agree with you. They're doing it really well with the Mandalorian, the way they're bringing characters who exist out there in the universe into the show.
But I like that they're bringing them in like you already know them. Even if you don't know them, you may recognize them from seeing them in pictures, commercials, any type of media or advertisement. So I think it's cool that they're bringing in these characters and they're not giving this whole life story on who they were and
we don't need origin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because the origin is out there. If you want it, you can go watch it. You don't have to.
And I think more movies and series need to do this. I don't know how many times I've seen that man's parents fucking die.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't need to see Uncle Ben get shot. I don't need to see any of this shit. Just do the movie like you know it. And if anybody wants to figure it out, they got the internet.
Yeah, I mean, really, absolutely. Or at least two or three other incarnations of the origins that you can watch.
Right.
I do agree with you. We don't need the origins movie every time. Let's start seeing other chapters of these characters. And I think that's what they're attempting to do with Marvel. And I think they're doing it very effectively with Star Wars.
I think they're doing beautiful with Star
Wars. All right. In season 2, we also learned Baby Yoda is named Grogu.
Yes.
Grogu. I'm sorry. Grogu. You're right. I wrote it wrong. Grogu. and he is of the same species as Yoda. And the season 2 finale, which we said about earlier, we get Luke Skywalker, who is Mark Hamill, digitally de-aged. Now let me ask you this. Oh, that's where that's why the Boba Fett, and this comes into having these series all intertwine, because the events of the book of Boba Fett, the Mandalorian is involved in that and affects the story between seasons 2 and seasons 3 of the Mandalorian.
Right.
Because season 3.
So in the book of Boba Fett, they have, I know they at least have one episode that Boba Fett's not even in it. It's just the Mandalorian. It's just like watching an episode of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So they're intertwining it. I was a little disappointed. I'm not gonna lie. I love the Mandalorian. It's probably one of my favorite shows out there. But I watched the book of Boba Fett to watch
Boba Fett.
Fett, So I mean, I think it's cool that they're intertwining them and you're seeing them, but that was a little brash in my opinion. I think
to have it be him,
just him. Now, if they brought him in and had something happening and it goes on to the Mandalorian, that's cool. But having a whole episode with just the Mandalorian or Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, I think is crazy. I mean, we watch it to watch that character.
The episodes with Boba Fett in the Mandalorian were good. When Mando takes Baby Yoda or Grogu to the Jedi stones, and then he makes a connection with Luke, who then comes in at the end of season 2. But I didn't know when I started season 3 that those events happened. So and let's talk about season 3. Let's move to season 3 now. We're a little unorganized for our first episode. We're going to get into the swing of things. We're just trying to catch up. The start of season 3, I think, has been the best season opener, even better than episode 1 of season 1, even better than the series opener. I think the opening of season 3 has been the top of everything that the Mandalorian has to offer. That was awesome.
It was cool.
Watching all of the Mandalorians battle this gigantic crocodile.
Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It was.
At a ceremony,
it could be a nostalgic thing because I know 2 seasons went by. That first episode of The Mandalorian, when he walks into that cantina, and it's like all space cowboyish, dude sitting there telling jokes, the Mandalorian saves him, and then he ends up taking them. The quality of like the background, the ice and everything, that kind of that made the show for me. That's what got me into the show. It's like reading a book. So when you read a book and it catches you right there at the beginning, and you'll remember that part better than any part in the whole series that you read. Yeah. And the Mandalorian has it. That first scene has that.
The season 3 premiere, the opening, I think, was as good as the opening to the series premiere. Like I
agree with you 100%. I think it's great.
I
sat there, I enjoyed it. I was sitting there laughing like hell yeah. And they're starting this with like great action.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah. It was just, I loved seeing it, watching them work together and to fight this big alligator. And then, of course, Mandalorian comes in. Now, I like how it was a false opening kind of, too, because at first, until you see the helmet painted, you almost think that you're watching, hey, this is when the Mandalorian gets like he's a child. This is when he gets his armor. This is when he's going to swear his oath.
I honestly thought that at first.
Yeah, it wasn't until I saw it was a different painted helmet. And even then I thought, no, it still might be. He might have gotten a different helmet. I mean, kids, their heads grow. You can't have the same helmet you have as a kid, as an adult. Maybe it's a juvenile helmet. Right. When he has now was his adult helmet. So I love
totally thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I love the false opening where you think it's one thing, but it's really not. And then Mandalorian arrives. Now he arrives with Baby Yoda, which is why you need to go watch the Book of Boba Fett between seasons 2 and 3, because he arrives with Yoda, and they don't really spend too much time telling us why he's back all of a sudden. You really have to go watch the Book of Boba Fett. So I haven't seen it yet, so I don't even know why. When I saw him back, I had to go look it up. That's how I found out about things in Boba Fett affecting this. which I found out like 2 hours before we actually started this episode.
Yeah, all of a sudden I get a message, hey, we got to talk.
Yeah. Hey, we got to talk. There was something we didn't plan for in our recap, because this first episode was going to be a season 1 and 2 recap into the events of season 3. And then I realized, oh, crap. There's things that are happening on a different show that affect the opening of season 3.
Well, I was going to bring it up to you. Just as a passerby, because I did watch the Book of Boba Fett. So
do you know why? So if you watched it, why don't you speak for a minute on what the events were that Baby Yoda ended up back with the Mandalorian?
Well, Grogu was being trained by Luke and Ahsoka, and honestly, Mando, he was just missing Grogu. Grogu was missing Mando. So Mando went. He wants to go see him. He had like this little gift for him and everything. And it's basically went down to, what do you want to do, Grogu? Do you want to go with him, or do you want to stay and do training? So,
and he chose to forego the training.
Right. So there's a lot of fan art of Grogu grown, wearing Mandalorian armor, which I think that would be so amazing to get to that point, kind of like where you see Groot evolving from big Groot to little Groot. Now he's like teenage Groot. It'd be cool to see Grogu do that. But with the way that species, which I don't even believe has a name, that Yoda, Grogu, and Yaddle is, but they age so slow. Grogu himself is like 50.
Yeah, I remember that from episode 1. So he just showed up. Nope, it doesn't look like it. I don't think it does have a name.
That, to my knowledge,
they come from the planet Naboo. If what I'm reading is to be believed, but this is the first thing, and I don't like just believing.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, that's right. So let's retract that statement.
I've only seen 3 of that species, and you had Yoda, and then on the Jedi Council, you also had Yaddle, which was a female.
I don't know about her.
If you watch the episodes 1 through 3, you'll just see her in the background in the Jedi Council, and then you have Grogu.
I didn't even know that. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I definitely don't think they have a name, which I think is kind of cool. What are your thoughts? I think though Baby Yoda or Grogu not doing his training, we've seen what happens, and with books, we know that some Jedi who decide not to train lose their powers. Some Jedi who decide not to train keep their powers. They just don't really grow too much. They kind of stay as like where they can move things, or they can create like little magic tricks, like it's minor power. So, but with Grogu, with the Yoda species, Grogu himself is obviously pretty strong in the Force. He's done some things even as a baby. So I don't know. I think I could see that being a problem. I mean, putting a gray Jedi in a Mandalorian suit of armor sounds like a hell of a series, and I'd watch it for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I think with the Force, when it comes to the Force, you run the risk of Baby Yoda becoming an evil Sith bounty hunter.
And I mean, we could be watching a beginning of the next Darth whatever.
Yeah.
Just like you saw Anakin being young, good, and good-hearted. I mean, we could be seeing that. I don't believe so. I believe that they're going to make it to where Grogu is almost how can I say it? Is going to be more powerful than they even imagine the Skywalkers to be.
Yeah.
Okay. And I believe that in a way, Grogu could be what brings the Jedi back.
Mm.
because Mark Hamill, his character is gone. Skywalker
And
is
we're
gone.
off the books. We are off the books.
We are off the books totally because if you went by the book, even the movies are off, are not even going through the book.
Episode 7, 8, and 9 take us completely off
Right.
of the book. The only thing you're ever going to see that's associated with the books is anything prior to episode 6, because they have the 6 movies and they're still following those events. So the books that are attached to the movies are still canon, but they have changed everything after episode 6.
Right. I mean, you have a whole series. Like I have the series of Han Solo going back home with Leia and their 3 kids.
That's what I'm saying. Leia has 3 kids. She has Anakin, Anakin Solo, and then the twins, Jason and
Jada.
Yeah, Jason and Jada. And then Luke has kids with Mara Jade.
Right. And the only reason I knew Mara Jade is because I had a Mortal Kombat type fighting game back on the regular PlayStation.
The reason I know about Mara Jade is because I'm currently reading through the Admiral Thrawn trilogy right now.
Right.
Admiral Thrawn is mentioned in The Mandalorian. What Cara Dune is it? Cara Dune's looking for Thrawn? No, the Jedi. What's her name?
I can't remember.
The female Jedi. Ahsoka. She's the one looking for Thrawn. She actually says, "Where's Thrawn?" So she's looking for Thrawn. I'd love for them to do a Thrawn. I think it's time for them to do a Thrawn. Please don't go off the books. Go back and read the books. Stay to the books. I know you're all, like most of the universe is off the books, but you can still save Thrawn. You haven't messed up too much of what Thrawn can do. You should do your best to save Thrawn and make a movie with him. And you should cast Hugo Weaving to be Thrawn.
All right. So going away from the books a little bit. Well, actually, all the way. Sorry. But at the first season, I forgot to mention this. Mm-hmm. The grittiness of everything. That's one thing that they've kind of went away from that I wish they would have stayed with. If you remember when he was getting his first bounty to go get Grogu, you had the stormtrooper helmets on the pikes with the blood hands and stuff like that. I'm sitting here like, okay, cool. We're gonna see a more grittier Star Wars, which I would like to see. I forgot the name of the video game, but they had it to where you were playing for the stormtroopers at one time, and that's how it was. It was like really gritty. It wasn't Battlefront. It was like some kind of command game. Yeah. And I was hoping that's where we were going with this because how gritty it was.
Yeah.
They kind of went away from that, and we're back to the lighter hearted type Star Wars stuff. But that's one thing I wish they would have stayed with. I think.
I mean, they've done it with Marvel now. Deadpool broke down the barrier for can a comic book movie make money even when it's rated R? And yes, it can. And I think it's time for Star Wars to start making some darker, some more grittier stuff. And
I mean, I just want to see, like, I like the small amount of blood that they show.
Yeah.
The burnt armor and stuff like that. It makes sense except for just having a black mark on the chest.
Yeah.
I don't think it needs to go the route of a lot of series coming out today because right now with any series, you don't know what you're going to get. You can't sit down with your kids and watch hardly anything anymore.
No.
Because
first, yeah.
Right. I mean, you don't know what's going to pop up or pop out. So, I mean, I still think we need to keep it family friendly, but a little bit darker wouldn't hurt.
Yeah. And I'm not saying like you need to go R-rated all the time, but I mean, with Deadpool, you know, it can happen. So we can see some stuff. You can explore some adult stuff in the Star Wars and Marvel universes because it's been shown to work. Not everything has to be for kids. Keep the kids stuff, but doesn't mean you can't make a little bit more content that's oriented more to adults.
Right.
So, and I agree with you on that. And I think The Mandalorian is toting that line pretty good. I think that's why they're kind of doing it that way, where there is some darker, grittier stuff, but then there's some lighthearted stuff. I think they made it. They tried to make it where adults and children could get into the storytelling, and that's where The Mandalorian, I think, has it in spades. They do some great storytelling. I'm hooked on it. I love The Mandalorian series. I want to keep watching to see what happens.
And there was one more thing I was going to bring up.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to figure out if I was correct or not. We'll go back to it for another episode.
Yeah, sorry about the dead air here for a second. I'm checking.
I apologize.
But I do want to say, of course, Gina Serrano, she is not in season 3. She was fired from the show. I think that's both good and there's some good and bad to it. If you want to know the specifics about what happened, check out the Boiling Point podcast. I'll be doing I'm going to at least mention it in an episode about what happened to her and why she's not with Disney anymore. The good thing that might come of it is I think that Katie Sackhoff might get a little bit more of a prominent role now than she would have had Gina Serrano stayed. I love Gina Serrano. I loved her. And I think the show is going to be less without her. I do believe that also. But I do believe that Katie Sackhoff will have more of a chance to shine now because I think she's going to be the new female lead in the series. I think we'll see more of her in the Mandalorian series going forward.
And it will be cool to see her. She's been doing a good job, and the way that she's been wielding the dark saber.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in another episode of The Mandalorian. We'll get into specifics about the dark saber, but we didn't want to do too much. We don't want to go too much. Yeah. We're already trying to cover a lot in this first episode, so
it is hard.
it's hard to keep everything straight. It's hard to recap 2 seasons and talk about the important things that have happened, and try and keep the episode short. So, what else did you want to bring up? You said you wanted to bring up something else.
I won't have to bring it up on another episode. I want to check to make sure I was correct.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine because we're going to be back next week. When you're watching this, if you're watching this when I just released it, it will be Sunday. If you're watching this, and we'll be back next Friday. It will be late. We don't know if we're going to go live or not yet. So we'll be on either live Friday nights at 10 o'clock, and next Friday, the 24th of March, we'll be on perhaps live at 10 o'clock. If we're not on live, then look for it to be on at about 11 or 11:30. That's when I will likely get it uploaded and put on the channels. Check us out. Check out our channels on Rumble, rumble.com. Actually, I don't know why I'm giving you the Rumble address. It doesn't have its own web address yet. So just search Mayhem Media on Rumble, search Mayhem Media on YouTube, and facebook.com/Mayhem Media Inc. And that's how you can find all our channels and all our stuff. Robby?
Check out the merchandise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Check out the storefront. We have new Mayhem Media merchandise. I've not gotten a shirt from it yet. We just launched it. So check that out. It's going to be on bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z, all lowercase. And get yourself some Mayhem Media apparel. Support the brand. That'll be great if we sold some t-shirts. It's only t-shirts right now and sweatshirts, some various apparel. I'll get into mugs and all that other stuff we'll be having on the storefront eventually. But for right now, it's just t-shirts, sweatshirts, that type of thing. Pick something up and share out this episode. Leave us a question. Leave us a comment if you want us to discuss something specific, or if you have a point you want to make, please leave us a comment. We will discuss comments on the future episodes. Robby's also the new graphic artist. If anybody was curious about that, that's why it says graphic artist under his name. He just made us a logo for the Boiling Point podcast, our sister show. We'll be launching that in the next couple of weeks. And he made us one for Mayhem Media, but we're going to be launching that in a couple of weeks. The merchandise that's up now is our current logo and our current lettering and stuff.
Takes a lot to switch everything over and make everything right to put out there. You can't just do it at one time. So we're going to keep it as it is right now, give it a little bit of time, and then it will be updated eventually.
Yes. We will be reusing Robby's design for Mayhem Media eventually, but since we had just launched with the apparel and our logos and stuff, it's hard to do that. It's not as easy as you might think. So it takes some time to get the apparel and everything set up. So, and I'm only one man. And Robby, who is now helping with the graphic arts, senior Star Wars correspondent. He's also the senior Marvel correspondent and the senior DC correspondent. He's officially practically a producer of Mayhem Media at this point, since this whole show was his idea. So we're growing, and we're continuing to bring you more content. Look for us next Friday for our next episode of
Our next episode will be a little bit more
organized.
Like he said, trying to do 3 seasons in 45 minutes is difficult, and you're going off memory because we did not just watch this all week and sit down with it. And you could tell, I mean,
this was a little rough, but that's okay.
It's a little rough, but I mean, I promise you the next shows would look a whole lot better.
Yes, and if you want some reassurance of that, just go check out any of the other episodes with Robby, because they're all excellent episodes. This has been the roughest production that Robby and I have done since he's joined the show. So stay tuned. We're going to get better. They're going to be a little bit crisper and a little bit more succinct. Check out Marcus Frederiksen. He does our music. We miss you, Marcus. ReverbNation.com/Marcus Frederiksen, and make sure you check out the apparel storefront that was started in honor of his memory by his sister. Facebook.com/TheHumankind. The Humankind. It's important that you put in The Humankind. If you just put in Humankind, you're going to get something else totally different. So make sure you put in The Humankind and get yourself some normalized to good apparel. For Robby, who has too many titles to list again in this show, I am your host, JD, and that's the end.